Our distinguished participant, Professor Dr. Nirmal, who is Professor of Psychiatry and Mental Health and HOD of Psychiatry and Mental Health Department from the Medical College, Pokhara, is lies in Gandaki province of Nepal.
Professor Langsani, you are invited to present your.
Thank you, sir. Respected Chairperson, distinguished delegates from India and delegates present here from all over Nepal, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee. It so happened that I was inquiring about who is the theme speaker for the conference, and all of a sudden, Dr. Professor Nagaraj told me that why don't you be one? So I think I'm really honored to be presenting in the theme of this conference, in this August gathering, because we are already little late in our sessions. What I'll try to do is I'll try to finish it in quicker than the time that has been allocated to me. I brought this slide because this is how we see in social media how doctors are taken in the Western world. I think in our part of the world, still we are considered to be among the privileged group. So, in this presentation, I have some disclaimers, and I would request the chairperson to spare me because my presentation does not contain any text. It will all be animations and videos. Over these years, what I have found is any presentation that is not full of humor is not attended by the audience. And that's what I always try to do. Talking about multisectorial involvement, collaboration in mental health, I think after this presentation, this is how you'll be feeling. What we have, where we are and what we are. And I'm sure my presentation is mainly targeted to the younger generations, the upcoming psychiatrists who will be the legends for tomorrow, who has greater task in their soldier ahead. You know, in any presentation, if I have seen that the communication is very tricky business. What you see and what you perceive may be altogether different. Even as a doctor, what we tell our patient and what they actually perceive becomes different. Can you give sound here? Okay. So, in this video, we could see that the lady who was using inhaler thought that she is doing it in the right way after the instruction given by her doctor, and we can see how she is using it. So, from this, what I am trying to say is, let's make this presentation interactive so that we all at least take home correct message from the presentation. So without much ado, this is how my presentation will flow. I'll talk briefly about the background of psychiatry in Nepal, then what all are the multisectorial collaboration that we can think of and are there in our country, and opportunities and challenges, and few take-home messages. So talking about some background, I just came to know from Professor Pushpa that it was in 1963. So psychiatry in Nepal is just over a decade or so older than me. So you can imagine how young we are in the field of psychiatry. That is when we got first qualified psychiatrists in Nepal. After a decade and two, few more psychiatrists arrived, and it was in 1980s. I think our seniors can correct me if the dates are wrong. Mental hospital, which is still the only mental hospital in the country, was established. And in 2015, Dr. Arun in Japan, he pioneered in opening only child mental hospital, mental unit in Kanti Children's Hospital in Kathmandu. So that is one step that we could achieve. In 2007, I was the 40th psychiatrist of Nepal. So, and in 2021, I recently saw that we are now 183 plus registered psychiatrists in Nepal. So this is the background of how we are. And talking about the mental health policy, in 1996 it was formulated. In 2075 we kept on fighting to get it sanctioned, to get it accepted by the government. And in 2077 finally it was passed by the Health Ministry. That is 2020. Though it is passed, I would say that people who suffer from mental illness still lack access to quality mental health care in their own community and are at risk of being stigmatized. This is our background scenario. Now coming to the multi-sectorial collaboration, I divided it into collaboration within the fraternity and outside the fraternity. Within the fraternity, the 183 plus registered psychiatrists that we have, I think currently, if I am not wrong, about 130 may be working in Nepal, others are working abroad. So we generally are general psychiatrists. I to be GP, I would like to consider myself as a GP in psychiatry. And we have few child psychiatrists and some psychiatrists who are working in child unit in the same hospital. So I think with that experience and training, they can be called child psychiatrists in coming days. And what we lack is social and community psychiatry, including rehabilitation, old age psychiatrist, consultation liaison psychiatry, forensic psychiatry, now it is called correctional psychiatry, and then psychiatry of intellectual and developmental disability. See, the scope of psychiatry is so huge, and where we stand is, I think we are in a pygmatized state. I don't know if that word exists or not, And neuropsychiatry is another field altogether. Here in Nepal, because we also have training, posting in neurology unit during our training, so sometimes we also consider ourselves a neuropsychiatrist, which I think is not that overdoing, because I'm sure we can do more justice than neurosurgeons to actually the neuropsychiatric patients. And there are other sub-specialty, like even the child psychiatry. Now we can see in developed countries that there are perinatal and infant psychiatry, psychiatric, psychotherapy. We have, I know one of the psychiatrists from Nepal who is currently in Australia, and he just practices cognitive behavior therapy. So, and sexual medicine. Professor K.S. Rao always keeps us sending email to send someone to do the fellowship, but still we don't have even a single one who is in that field. If we go through the American Code of Psychiatry and Neurology, what subspecialty and other specialty that they have recognized in the developed countries, the list goes on and on and on. I will not enumerate them. It's really huge. See, this is one thing that really interests me in this while making this presentation. Correctional psychiatry is to do with the subspecialty forensic psychiatry, and I think my seniors and others will agree with me that in the correctional facility, I think Professor Dhruva has some experience of working with the people who are in the prison. Otherwise, that aspect of psychiatry is addressed by the forensic experts in the country. So there is huge scope in correctional psychiatry for us also. While talking outside the faculty, today morning only I heard some of the speakers saying that mental health, it starts from the home. And there is other aspect in the school, in the college, and sports. So one of the Canadian psychiatrists once presented in one of the conference regarding embitterment syndrome. That is another field in psychiatry which deals with the industrial psychiatry. So what they do is they hire psychiatrists to recognize embitterment syndrome among the workers and the workers in the industry, and they have found that it enhances the productivity of the industry. So the developed countries have gone up to that extent in psychiatry. And talking about other fraternities with whom we should be collaborating are psychologists, psychoanalysts, and psychiatric nurse, psychotherapist, psychosocial counselor, family and marriage counselor, addiction counselor, spiritual and religious counselor. So, see, the mental health providers need to come together to give mental health to the people in the country. Social health workers. So these are all the fields that we still lag behind, and we should be collaborating. What happens in Nepal is we don't team with them. You know, if we see how the team looks like, I find the team looks like what is shown in the slide. Everybody is blowing their own trumpet. So for the young psychiatrist, so much to do and so little motivation. So what to do now? This is the reality of our sweet world. So Dr. Arun, if he's here, I think he would, and he really empathize with this while he was struggling to open that psychiatric unit in Kanti Hospital. Dr. Arun, if he's here. So, you know, WHO remains firmly committed to the principle as set out in the preamble to the Constitution. And we keep on reciting this definition of health. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. 1946 Convention. And it says that the enjoyment of highest attainable standard of health is one of the fundamental rights of every human being without distinction of race, religion, political belief, economic or social condition. So let's reflect back. Where do we stand here? Even as a psychiatrist, I do not like to talk about mental health because I don't think we have reached to that extent. And I think some of the ministry representatives are here. I think they should really take this as a message from here. What we could do in Nepal is we could only address disease from that rubric of a WHO definition of health. We are only focusing on disease. I'm not even saying that we have gone up to infirmity, let alone the physical, mental, and social well-being. And I think this is a huge statement that I'm making here today, and I hope some of you will come forward and prove me wrong. I'll be really glad. We think that giving medicine is enough. I think giving medicine is not health. Giving health is a broader phenomenon, and we should realize that. So, another big challenge that we have as a psychiatrist, I think in the previous session, already the speakers, they have already spoken about it, the stigma. We see the stigma. I'm not worried about the stigma in the general population, sir. What I'm worried about is the stigma within us and within the fraternity, other fraternity in health science. That is the biggest challenge that we have today. I come across many consultants, non-psychiatric consultants, who would say that because of tension, this patient has anxiety, he may develop depression, so Nirmal, please help us. I ask them who doesn't have tension. And I believe that stress has no more and no less effect in mental health as it has in any physical health. Sir, big statement, you can challenge. And medical science has proven it time and again that stress has no more and no less effect in mental health as it has in any physical health. So the opportunities, coming to the opportunities, I think from the presentation itself, we can gather that there are a lot of opportunities. These are some of the skills that we are taught in the medical school, you know, that we carry with us. And these are 4 stars that we carry. You know, but in the workplace, and we are told that 1 in 4 suffer from a mental illness. So the burden is huge. So it is time that we blow the trumpet together and collaborate. So these are some of the messages to my junior colleagues present here. I believe that only medicine cannot cure any disease. And giving medicine is sick care, not health care. If you do not understand your illness well, I don't think the treatment will be complete. This is what I always tell my students, that if you do not address the lifestyle of the person, if you do not address the environment of the person, if you do not address the nutritional status of the patient, and you just give goli, it's not going to work. If these things are addressed and you give goli, then that is when the treatment will be complete. I think this is not something new that I am presenting here today, but we are all quiet. This is one secret that we medical people we know, and it is hidden from the public. You know why I put this lancet here? I wanted to make it interactive. Can someone tell me how Lancet was going, why the name Lancet was going? Lancet is a reputed journal, right? Anybody knows? Well, without wasting time, in the 1900s in UK, at that time there was a dilemma between the trained doctors and untrained doctors. I think there are a lot of movies based on that. One starring Devana, so if you have watched, where the untrained so-called doctors would do a lot of things that were not scientific. So they published this newsletter and they called it Lancet, which means cut, that surgical knife. And it is not happening in our part of the world.